Chapter 176. My son is too strong. 3. A good warrior keeps winning. A really good warrior knows how to accept defeat when they somehow lose. I lost. The musclehead was a really good warrior. I'm confident that I wouldn't lose in terms of quantity of aura, but when it comes to the usage of aura, the difference is like heaven and earth. Ugh. I feel like I've been treating aura too simply. Don't blame yourself. I rubbed Aburka's head. I also didn't realize it on my own. Instead, I was taught martial arts by my master. No matter how talented an individual might be, it would be difficult for them to compare to the history of an entire faction. There are thousands of years of history behind the demonic path. Kekerker. Dad. I don't even want you to call me father. Why don't you call me sire? 1. My identity shakes when a big guy like you calls me dad. Understood, daddy. 1 asterisk. The sound is only slightly different, but the connotation is really unpleasant. No, if you absolutely must call me something, then call me whatever you want. Daddy. I have a question. Why have you been sitting on my head all this while? It's because you're huge, Aburka. Anyone who sees a giant like you would have the impulse to climb up. People have a natural desire to climb. It's hard for me to resist. I see. So there was such an impulse. Aburka nodded. Shake. As I was riding on this child's head, I naturally experienced a sensation similar to the Viking ship ride at an amusement park. It was kind of fun. Now that you've lost to me, listen to my advice carefully. Of course, after you listen to me, you can still decide whether to do what I say or not. You can even tell me if you have a better idea. Ugh. Even if you were to force the peace negotiations, the chaos in the world would not end. I stroked Aburka's head again. You have to carry out the negotiations so that all parties can be satisfied. Not only the snails, but the other 5 races should also benefit in some way. How can we make them benefit? That's simple. For now, put aside whatever you might think from your perspective. Instead, think about the perspectives of the other races. Then you will find an answer. I said. The snail race will welcome peace. That is because it will help them escape the fate of being destroyed. However, it would be difficult for them to accept removing the source of the conflict by destroying Remepolis. Do you understand why? Because it is the Holy Land? TSK. If Remepolis is destroyed, they won't have a city to live in. I smacked the top of Aburka's head. They would be happy that the crisis of being destroyed had been averted, but they would be anxious since their future was not guaranteed. In other words, if you can somehow relieve this anxiety, the snails will accept the peace negotiations. A new city. A new place to live. Right. It would hurt to have their holy land destroyed. But as you said, you'd destroy the Holy Land, so no one can have it. That is something they would be able to accept. Understood. Aburka nodded and my Viking ship returned. We will promise the snails that we will protect them as they make a new settlement to live in. They will probably be anxious if we were to put them in a place close to the other 5 races, so we'll have to lead them to a place as far away as possible. Right. That's it. The snails have good technical skills, don't they? You can set the condition of them teaching a few of these skills to you. That way, the warriors of the goblin race will have fewer complaints. Is that so? To be precise, it should decrease the sheebles a bit. That sounds the same, but the connotation feels different. It wouldn't completely erase the complaints. Nevertheless, within the goblin race, the law of respecting the strong was deeply ingrained. They would follow the will of Aburka, the chairman of the council and the number one goblin. Because the magic words, "if you have any complaints, then come fight me," existed. Aburka. Your will to prevent the destruction of a race is good. However, if you want to live ignorantly, then you mustn't be ignorant. It's better to think hard about whether you can achieve something or not. Daddy. What do the other races need? I just told you. I chuckled softly. Can't you just think from their perspective? We will help you when you feel like you will fall. The night of the full moon. Although reluctant, the snails and the leaders of the Allied army attended the meeting. Nevertheless, none of them had good expressions. It would be better to say they were forced to attend than attended. Unfortunately, there was no one who could stand up to the leader of the muscleheads. Under the tent where the representatives of each race gathered, Aburka declared with ambition. Look! The Snail Empire, which boasted the greatest prosperity after the primeval forest burned, also collapsed. There is no such thing as eternal prosperity. The Allied forces are in a good condition now, but it's possible for one of you to decline someday. This is the logic of the world that we can't control. The defeated race will become the slaves of the victorious race. The enslaved race would then experience the humiliation of 600 years ago, and the master race will repeat the same mistakes the snail race made 600 years ago. That's not good at all. Both sides will have sherbal, and eventually, the whole world will be filled with sherbal. Aburka had a sad expression on his face. In other words, he opened his mouth, showed his fangs, furrowed his eyebrows, and wiggled the tip of his nose. When the strongest hobgoblin in history made such an expression, there weren't many who could bear to look at him. The vampire leader spoke in a cautious manner. In other words, you will help us in the future just like you're helping the snails now? That's right. When you are on the brink of extinction, I, Aburka, chairman of the Fire River Council, promise to come to your aid. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Excuse me. Is there a guarantee that this promise will continue from generation to generation? There isn't. Then I'm sorry, but this conversation. Aburka grabbed the haft of his battle axe. Flinch. And all the representatives in the tent shrank back like frightened deer. There isn't, but now there will be. What? Wait here. Chairman Aburka left the tent and approached the goblin soldiers who had surrounded it. Members of the Fire River Council, listen up. I will conclude the peace negotiations in the name of the council. And from now on, if any of the tribes here are on the verge of collapse, we will help them. The warriors glanced at each other. And one of them, who seemed to have eaten a lot of jambab, too, said, "We will do as the chairman says. This promise will remain valid even after I die." Yugo? How will that work? Because you will all vow, my descendants will never break this promise, now. And if any of your descendants break the promise you made with me, they will be considered sinful and a disgrace. What if we don't want to vow? Defeat me. Sherbal. The warrior who had eaten a lot of jambab picked up his spear. I'm against that decision. My name is Merk. Descendant of Kekerker and Gorger, the great warrior who ran beside him. Ranked 49th in the Fire River Council, and brother of Mormu, who died honorably in a duel after defeating many opponents in this war. Aburka hefted his axe onto his shoulders. Nice muscles. I'll only beat you within an inch of your life, instead of killing you. True to his words, he beat up the warrior who'd eaten a lot of jambab. Gyuek. Aburka buried his fist in the warrior's stomach, and the warrior showed his jambab to the world. The name of his exhibit was 2 Fish and a Bit of Centipede Chicken. It was a work that stood out because of the contrast between the thin gastric juices and thick ingredients. The various goblins who witnessed his exhibit trembled with emotion. He's still as ridiculously strong as ever. I really want to know what the chairman eats that makes him so crazily strong. Even a double-digit ranker was sent flying in one hit. That's insane. Doesn't he seem stronger than before? I think it's a really good decision, Chairman. Chairman is the face and honor of our race. Hooray for the chairman. Who said that? That shameless bastard. Get out here, you slug. Afterward, several warriors stepped forward to contest the decision. There were those ranked 100th, and even the warrior ranked 6th. Nevertheless, no warrior was able to force Aberka to use his axe. All of them fell with just one punch. When the number of beaten warriors reached 33, the goblins had no choice but to join together and chant one word in one voice. Sure ball. Sure ball. Aberka put down his axe and folded his arms. Weak. How are you guys so weak? You're so weak that I feel bad for hitting you. I'm already very sorry, guys. Quietly agree to my decision before I become even more sorry. A good warrior keeps winning. A really good warrior knows how to accept defeat when they somehow lose. In that sense, all of the goblins were really good warriors. I agree. I agree, Hugo. Those who are against it, speak up. Silence. Only the sound of the bonfires burning could be heard in the military camp. All the members of the Fire River Council and all the warriors on the battlefield expressed their approval. Aberka looked around and nodded. Good. Then, as the chairman of the Fire River Council, I hereby declare that, if one of the 6 races is on the verge of extinction, we will help that race. Those who shouted in approval, and those who remained silent despite their opposition, as well as their descendants, cannot disobey this decree. Everyone. Swear on the sacred earth. Aberka thumped his axe on the ground 3 times. Thud. 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 Without speaking, the goblin warriors also raised their weapons and thumped them on the ground 3 times. Aberka returned to the tent and took his seat. The representatives of the 6 races stared at him blankly. Arms crossed, Aberka looked at the representatives. We have made a vow that the promise will be passed down to our later generations. Any other questions? The vampire commander bowed his head politely. That is sufficient. I don't have any other questions. One bowed his head and another raised their head. It was the representative of the Oni 3 race. Hey, Mold. You're really strong. Our father is stronger. Huh, son of a bitch? You're wrong. We are not sons of bitches. When Kekerker descended, he borrowed the body of a lion. Therefore, we are the children of lions. That expression could only suit the snails over there. I'm disappointed that you don't even have such basic common sense. So you can go ahead and correct yourself by calling me son of a lion. Ha. Ha. Shh. *T, anyway. The Oni commander drew his sword. I speak for the rest. We led the expedition all the way here, pouring in countless resources into it. Even if you say, we'll help you when you have a crisis later, so leave now, that's not enough, is it? What should we do about the resources that have already been poured into the abyss? So what do you want? Compensation. We are not a rich race either. We consider it a virtue to eat what you earn in a day. So we can't compensate you even if I wanted to. Then we can't negotiate with you either. Ugher. That's not it. Aberka stroked his chin. You must be worried about something else. What? The problem is that you spent so many resources but returned without a proper result. The nobles and landowners who were ripped off by you will definitely express dissatisfaction. It might even lead to a revolt, which would cause you to lose power as a result. If you're not lucky, you would be made into a scapegoat and executed. That's what you're worried about, isn't it? Aberka recited the words we'd discussed in his dream. When he heard the unexpected remarks, the Oni commander was shocked. Just once. If there is a rebellion in your country, I will help you. I won't add this to the agreement. It is something I'll do on my own. With this body, an axe and 12 spears, I should be able to change the minds of any rebel. How about it? Will you assist us in destroying the Holy Land now? Aberka bared his fangs. If you still need an excuse, then come fight me. Saying that you lost to me in a duel should be good enough of an excuse for Oni like you. You bastard. The Oni commander became flushed and brandished his sword. Fine then. Let's duel. But if you think I'll go easy on you, you're sorely mistaken. If you think that I won't go easy on you, you're mistaken. I'll cut you some slack. The Oni commander was subsequently beaten. His horn was bent, his nose was broken, and his leg was twisted. After a few of his teeth fell out, his appearance was thus completed. The Oni commander, who was then buried headfirst in the ground, let out a groan. Fucking dog bastard. Aberka smiled at his masterpiece. You look more like a warrior now. If someone were to bury a person upside down in front of you, you would naturally have a lot less to say. So that night, the representatives of the 7 tribes signed a peace treaty. Chapter 177. The Giant's Legacy 1. The Tale of a City. Remepolis. A city that survived on the mining industry and trade. Remepolis had one of the largest and purest salt mines in the Snail Empire, which increased its prestige. There were people who asked, "Can you get food and wealth from digging into the ground?" And the answer was, yes, we can get both. The Great Cavern. The skull of the Earth God. We collect the teeth of the goddess. It was such a place. A city that prospered from the wealth and glory that came with digging up the ground. The deeper into the ground they dug, the more glory they received, until one day, when they swung their pickaxes, they heard a clanging sound. They'd reached the bottom. The Tale of a City. Remepolis. A city that survived on the mining industry and trade. Remepolis had one of the largest and purest salt mines in the Snail Empire, which increased its prestige. There were people who asked, "Can you get food and wealth from digging into the ground?" And the answer was, yes, we can get both. The Great Cavern. The skull of the Earth God. We collect the teeth of the goddess. It was such a place. A city that prospered from the wealth and glory that came with digging up the ground. The deeper into the ground they dug, the more glory they received, until one day, when they swung their pickaxes, they heard a clanging sound. They'd reached the bottom. The mining ability of Remepolis has deteriorated. There was still some rock salt left. However, they would have to dig too deep to find it. The work time would be much longer, and the level of difficulty would also increase. The cost of the Remepolis salt industry increases. The slaves had fled. The snail's skin was naturally weak to salt. It was fine for them to swing pickaxes or manage workers at the entrance of the mines, but it was difficult for them to go deeper. This was why they needed slaves from the other 6 races. As the slaves disappeared, the economy of the city, which was powered by rock salt, shrank rapidly. The snail race's dominance weakens. The mermaid race looked like regular mermaids, but the sea water irritated their skin, which forced them to remain in the rivers. However, one day, a special species was born. Even when this special species entered the sea, they could withstand it, only saying, "Ah, it's a bit salty." Even those who were born with mixed blood from the special species were able to withstand the sea. The mermaid race evolves. The sea was a magical place that the snails had a hard time going in and out of, and the fact that the mermaids could now go into the sea meant that they would no longer have to interact with the snails. Then, one day, one of the special mermaids accidentally tasted some of the soil from the tidal flat. It's salty. Of course, the soil would also be salty since it was a tidal flat that seawater constantly flowed over. Can it become more salty? They remembered the time when they had been imprisoned by the snails in Remepolis. You have to dig a hole to get salt. This stereotype had been implanted onto them. So the mermaid dug a hole in the middle of the tidal flat, put wooden sticks in the corner to keep its shape, covered it with reeds before adding mud on top of it. In that way, they created a primitive jar. A week later, when the mermaid checked the jar, they found that it was filled with seawater. They scooped up the seawater and baked it in a kiln. When they tasted it, they found that it was very salty. It was sea salt. New technology had been created after an old stereotype met with a new environment. A new technology has been created. The snail race's competitors appeared. The mermaids were natural sailors. After all, they were amphibious from birth, so they wouldn't die even if they were to be caught in a storm. The sea god, which was terrifying, was now their guardian deity. Ships laden with salt flowed in and out of the waterways like guests at a house. The production and distribution of salt had been completely taken over by the mermaids. An ideological conflict has arisen. The snails couldn't accept it. According to the mythology of the snail race, salt came from the teeth of the goddess. So it was difficult for them to accept that eating salt from the sea would not cause sickness. There were several attitudes that a person could take when they couldn't accept the opinions of another. It's sorcery. The snails chose the easiest one. It is the work of the devil. Sea salt is cursed food created with the breath of the devil. The mermaids are all demons who worship the devil. The fact that their skin can withstand the sea is proof of their devil worship. The snails could have taken a more difficult path. They could have simply modified their mythology a bit. The goddess actually split in half when she died. Half of her body was buried into the ground, the other half sank deep into the sea. They could have done that. The more the empire expanded, the more at jeopardy their myths became. Salt, which they thought only came from the land, also appeared in water. Their world expanded. As their perception of the world grew wider, the myths lost their individuality, and the subjects of the myths seemed to lose character. It was possible that one day, the empire would abandon local myths filled with individuality, and instead adopt a universal, invisible, all-powerful God, faith. Remepolis might even move from the name of a city to the name of the empire itself, like Rome. Those who eat salt made by the demons. Regardless of the reason, it is blasphemy. But the snails didn't do that. Salt dissolves when it goes into water. Water dissolves salt. So how can salt come from water? This is a trick of the devil, a scheme to deceive the people and lead them along the wrong path. Instead, they justified the reason why it wasn't possible. From now on, all citizens must only eat rock salt produced by the empire. Anyone who digs up salt from mines not recognized by the temple, those who make salt from water, and those who try to bring sea salt into the empire will be punished. Trade of water salt is prohibited. Block all the rivers and waterways. Seize and sink every mermaid ship that is loaded with salt. It was defended by those priests who believed in the old myths. The warriors who fought against the slaves responded. The citizens who still looked down on the other 6 races cheered. Their support, response and advocacy became a source of support for the snail nobles. And there was no person who could stop the priests, warriors, citizens and nobles all at the same time.
Ah,
I will serve you as my master from now on. The god who could do that had already been eliminated. The snails have destroyed the mermaid's port. The snails are looting the mermaid trade ships. The snails forced other races to trade rock salt. The mermaids are revolting against the actions of the snails. When an old power declines, a new power rises to take its place. When the industry leadership changes. When either side fails to accept a new ideology, when they miss the opportunity to reform, the things that are meant to happen, happen. A war of supremacy has broken out. That was the tale of the past 600 years. Ugh. There were 6 wars. And in the end, the empire collapsed. Now, according to the peace treaty signed by all 7 races, we will destroy the Holy Land. The priests lost their religion. The warriors lost their victory. The citizens lost their peace. The nobles lost their power. All that was left was a mine where rock salt and glory were dug up for 600 years. However, a single line in a history book couldn't stop the spear of time, and an empty cave could not feed the people. But by the time everyone noticed, it was too late. It was much too late. You have 3 options. Chairman Aburka spoke. First, I can just destroy everything on my own. I want to do it, too. The title, The One Who Destroyed a City, is something I'd love to have. But not only am I strong, I am generous. I can put my greed aside for a while. With a hup, Aburka took a bodybuilder pose. His left pectoral bounced slightly. Second, the snails can destroy the Holy Land with their own hands. You guys can do it. But I don't think you want the title, The Ones Who Destroyed Their Own Holy Land. That name would be very disgraceful. Nevertheless, I will give this chance to you. Aburka's right pectoral bounced. And finally, all 7 races destroy it together. Aburka let out a laugh. Smash the city until your anger has completely dissipated. Breaking something always makes you feel better. Just smash it. All the soldiers who worked so hard to come here and all the people who did their best to protect it. You guys can do it. I'm sure you can. The last king of the snail race, the Snail King, spoke in a trembling voice. Frightening warrior. What if a fight breaks out after we lead them into the city? Worry not. Us goblins will take care of security. The hammers you wield will be used to smash buildings, not the heads of people. Some things must be preserved. We engraved our history on stone pillars. Dismantle it and take it with you. What's the problem? They would be very heavy. Then choose only the things you can take with you. A history that can't be moved is not pride, it's stubbornness. If you let it go, you will be much lighter. If you are light, you will be more free, and if you are free, you will be strong. Remepolis is our last remaining city. Where do you intend to take us? To a place that will make you lighter, freer, and stronger. Some of our citizens don't believe you. That's fine too. Aburka put his hands together and flexed his muscles. His biceps bulged. Tell them to come at me. A total of 944 snails stepped forward. Of course, 944 snails couldn't rush forward all at once, so the 16 bravest warriors rushed out first. It could be said that the race had fallen, but they were all soldiers who had eaten jambab till they were sick of it. I will give you all the honor of seeing my true form. The aura giant descended. What? What? Crazy. The snail soldiers were only able to mutter these short words before they were all sent flying by Aburka's aura. Not just the 16 people at the front, but even the 28 waiting to go after them were sent flying. Ah ha 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 ha. The giant let out a thunderous laugh. Come at me if you can. Little ones. My chest is wide. Whether it is 900 or 9,000, I will accept you all. It's unfortunate that there aren't enough of you to make me work up a sweat, but it's fine nonetheless. I have enough muscles to make all you kids into adults. I'll be your dad. There weren't many who would want a goblin as their father. Rather than dealing with the stress of being beaten by the huge muscle head, the snails decided to release their stress by destroying the builds of their ancestors. It was a wise choice. Damn it. Sure ball. After one day and night, Remepolis was completely destroyed. Shouting side by side, the 7 races were able to smash the city to powder. The final blow had been dealt by none other than Aburka. Hup! Aburka became a giant and punched Remepolis. Thud! Thump! Thump! The beating lasted for more than half a day. The city within the cavern vanished, the ceiling shattered and rocks poured down as the mountain that contained the cave also collapsed. Crazy! The scene of a single hobgoblin destroying a city on his own. Hut! Chairman Aburka's lips quirked. It was the unique smile that a child usually had after destroying a sandcastle that had been meticulously built. At least I'll get a City Destroyer title because of this. This event declares that the peace treaty has been completed. Goblins, pack up. Snails, do your best to follow us while carrying those ridiculous stone pillars. Neither before nor after. The strongest warrior in the history of the goblin race spoke. We will return to Guru. The war of supremacy has ended. The multi-race alliance has achieved an incomplete victory. The snail race has escaped the danger of destruction. And the stage also ended. The goblin race has gained the prestige of hegemon. The prestige of the goblin race increases. The authority of the goblin race increases. The chances that the goblin race will develop a new trait have increased greatly. You have received 9,000 race points. You currently have 9,800 race points. My fellow hunters murmured. Hey, that guy's a real monster. There's no way that guys like that would be born in the goblin race constantly, right? Otherwise I'd feel kind of sorry for my own kids. That probably won't happen. The crusader shook her head. Such an unprecedented warrior rarely appears in history. It was by chance that he appeared in the goblin race. Perhaps the next hero will appear in another race. We just have to wait for our golden ages. The tower's voice then rang out in our ears. You can now declare stage clear. Would you like to clear the stage now? The Black Dragon Master flipped her hair to the side. It doesn't necessarily say that one race will be eliminated. Are we certain that we've overcome the crisis of destruction? It's possible that another race might be in danger of being eliminated without our knowledge. We watched from a distance as the armies of the various races scattered and disappeared. It had been 800 years since the primeval forest burned. We were still reigning like constellations, but the kids were slowly beginning to walk their own steps rather than following the constellations in the sky. I opened my mouth. Great job, everyone. Did we even have a hard time? That child from your race solved everything on his own. I never felt this comfortable in a stage before. The Black Dragon Master smiled happily. I'm going to watch how those kids live for about 10 days before declaring the clear. How about you, Death King? Then I'll also stay for about 10 days. There are still some things I want to teach Aburka. What else are you going to teach that monster? Don't worry. It's something good. Something good. We parted ways after deciding that we would declare clear after 10 days. That's right. I still had something to pass on to Aburka and the goblin race. Purchased dream appearance. 100 points have been deducted. You currently have 9,700 race points. Aberka, who was floating on the mud pond, looked at me. Ugger, you're back, Daddy.
Yeah.
Dad is back. I guided the snails as Daddy advised. Quickly, praise me. Aigu, my little boy. Did you save a race that was on the brink of extinction? Ujuju. Good job, you did really well. My little boy is so amazing. It was worthwhile to raise such a good boy. The goblin race is the coolest in the world and my baby boy is the coolest in the goblin race. You're so much better than Daddy. Ugger. Ugger. Aberka let out a laugh. After pouring out a baptism of praise for about 10 minutes, I finally changed the subject. Aberka. There's something I want to teach you. Ugger? To be precise, I want you to learn this before teaching the others. So that it will not be forgotten even 100 years after you die or 100 years after that. What do you want to teach me? I smiled. Then I illuminated my hand with red aura. I will teach you about the fire of the world. The new infernal heaven's demonic art. I was going to pass my own creation to the goblin race. Chapter 178. The Giant's Legacy, 2. Aberka. I realized something while watching the way you used your mana. You mean the Sherbal Aura training method? I can't help but mourn your horrendous naming ability. Anyways, right? I saw a profound possibility after looking at the Sherbal Aura training method. I spoke as I say atop Aberka's head. It's the formation method. Formation method? Aberka tilted his head. What's that, Daddy? Formation method. Before meeting Master, I knew hardly anything about martial arts, but I'd learned a lot about the common sense of Murim from Behu Ryong. The formation method was literally a method of attaining a formation. Martial arts is basically the method of learning to utilize one's body. On the other hand, you could think of the formation method as the method to spread it among several people. Ugger, do you mean like battle formations? Similar. But it's not the same as simple hand-to-hand combat. I told him. Let's say people from different factions fought on the same side. They might be attacking together or carrying out joint attacks, but it couldn't really be called the formation method. It's the same principle. Only when they use their aura in the same way could it be called the formation method. Does Daddy want to teach me the formation method? Right. To be precise, I want to teach you the infernal heaven's demonic art first and then develop it into a formation method with you. I've never used a formation method before, so I'm not sure if it'll work, but so what? I'm still interested to try. I don't quite understand. Is there a reason to learn it? Hey, baby. If you look for a reason or value before doing everything, then you will never do anything. I tapped the top of Aberka's head. For now, we'll just test it. Then if it doesn't work, we can just give up. But if it does work, then we'll delve deeper. All right? So it's just relaxed. Relaxed. I smiled. But, baby. I have a question for you. What is it? Have you ever starved for more than a week? Aberka blinked. Huh? After that, I slowly taught him the relaxed infernal heaven's demonic art. The infernal heaven's demonic art is divided into 9 forms. The first form is the Asa sword of starvation. In other words, it is a sword that was created from the longing and desperation of hunger. This is why you are starving now. Aya, this dream world is really useful. Time passes, but you won't die no matter how much you starve. Kill me. Aberka, who had already been starving in his dream for a week in his dream, cried out. His legs and arms were bound by chains. And I was sitting in front of him eating delicious fruits and fish. This was the result after I defeated him in a fair duel. I'd prefer if you killed me. Is it painful? It's painful. Does it hurt? It hurts. It feels like all of my muscles are screaming. That's it. My baby. I want you to input that pain, that feeling into your sword. I've also been forced to starve for a week. But even if you're starving, you can't starve without thinking. Think of a farmer starving to death in the middle of nowhere because of a bad harvest. Think of the farmer's child. You have to starve while thinking about that. Daddy, you're crazy. I taught him. This dream world really is nice. If I think of a snow field appears, and if I think about an epidemic spreads. It's the perfect environment to learn the infernal heaven's demonic art. There was nothing like this in my time, phew. Cold. Daddy, I'm so cold. This is what it means to freeze to death. Imagine someone who doesn't even have a blanket, and has to use fallen leaves to cover themselves. I'll freeze before I can imagine it. That's fine, that's fine. You won't die. My baby is the strongest goblin that ever lived. This is easy, isn't it? It's been a long time since I've said this word in this context, but... Shibble. I taught him. Is it difficult to learn? Is the burning too painful? I understand. I'll experience this one with you. Even if it hurts, it'll be fine as long as we feel the pain together. Are you not okay? Does it still hurt? That's natural. It's supposed to hurt. But baby, I can't hear you at all. Even if your vocal cords are burnt, you can use your aura to speak. Look at Dad. I'm not moving my lips, I'm using my aura to talk freely. Now. Try it. Is hell. Agu. As expected of my baby boy. Such a fast learner. It can be said that infernal heaven's demonic art makes the users experience the various hells one after the other. This horrible martial art. Did Daddy learn it as well? That's right. I smiled brightly. I also had to learn it. I taught him. Purchased dream appearance. 100 points have been deducted. You currently have 8,800 race points. 10 days. While the other hunters were busy spending their time caring for their races, I poured all of my time into a burqa. And if one were to count the time spent in each dream, it would be much longer than 10 days. I scratched my cheek. Well, it's not bad. Not bad. I'm a bit disappointed, but I'll have to be satisfied with this. That's it? A burqa grit his teeth. I endured living hell for 10 days. No. That's true. I also realized it while teaching you. You have great talent for the infernal heaven's demonic art. But it's not something that's easy to understand even with overflowing talent. That's natural. Only a psychopath would be able to fully grasp the starving death, dehydration death, drowning death, freezing death, poison death, sickness death, blunt force death, and burning death. A person can only die once, and when they die, it's all over. If this wasn't a dream, I wouldn't dare to learn this. Well, the demonic cult has always been a bit of a hard place. It's strange that Daddy is even able to perform such a horrific art in the first place. I don't know how you can do it. No, the amazing thing is that you're still sane. I smiled. Thanks for the compliment. Now. I will be saying
goodbye
to this era after today. So before that, we need to create a draft version of the formation method. Even if you haven't fully comprehended the infernal heaven's demonic art, you have at least reached the level of rising demon. Aburka. You and I are now seeds that sprout in the same direction. We can now share our dreams, or even fulfill each other's dreams. I jumped off of Aburka's head. Sit down. You go. Unlike martial arts, formation methods aren't organized. They're all over the place. Most sects use the basic level of formation method in teams. I sat down in front of Aburka and grabbed a few stones. Using my aura, I rolled the stones around on my palm. Think of each stone as a martial artist. Understood. 5 out of 6 of them are moving in a certain rhythm. Almost like music. Those who are fighting them will get used to the rhythm of the 5 people. And the moment they get used to this rhythm, the last one rushes in with a completely different rhythm. Swish! One of the stones suddenly leapt forward, striking Aburka's chest before he even had a chance to respond. There was no damage to speak of. Nevertheless, Aburka stared at me with a blank expression as though he was unable to fully comprehend what had just happened. This is the basic level of formation method. People have intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to understand rules. Rhythm is also a rule. The key to formation methods is to use people's cognition as an opening. Is it really that amazing? It is amazing. But that's on the basic level of formation method. I smiled. It was worth it to learn this and that from Behu Ryong whenever I had time after learning the teachings of the demonic cult. The next level of formation method is magic. I sent aura to the palm of my hand. What do you see? It looks like fire. That's right. Even though it's not fire, it looks like it. This is because I copied the appearance of fire with my aura. Aburka. You're not actually a giant, but you can make yourself become one with your aura. I focus my aura on the 6 stones. The stones were set on fire. What if 6 people made their aura like fire? Imagine being surrounded by those 6 people. You'd probably feel like you were in a furnace, right? Ugh. This is also the path we will go along when we plan together from now on. Tack. I caught the stones in the air. The only ones who have mastered the infernal heaven's demonic art so far are just me and you. But what if there were 3? What if it increased to 6? Imagine what would happen if we increase the number to 12 or 24. Imagine what would happen if 100, 300, or even 600 people were to all learn the infernal heaven's demonic art and they all performed it at once. Aburka's eyes slowly widened. The corners of my mouth raised like a cunning villain. On my own, I might only be able to create a furnace 5 steps wide. However, if we work together, we might be able to burn 10 or even 15 steps away. And hundreds gathered together. They could burn the entire battlefield. Aburka opened his mouth. His eyes were dazed as though he wasn't looking at me at that moment. He was probably imagining the scene I'd just described. The souls of hundreds of warriors burning at the same time with the same image and technique. The battlefield would definitely turn into hell in an instant. That's right. Not a personal skill, but a group skill. That was the way I envisioned the new infernal heaven's demonic art to be. Daddy called it magic, but I think differently. When fantasy imposes itself on the world, it becomes real. What do you think? Is it worth doing? I want to try. Okay. Then let's try it step by step. I smiled. In order for this to succeed, we'll have to have the same image in our hearts. After all, if a choir wants to sing the same song, they'll have to memorize the lyrics. A burqa. You will have to share not only the infernal heaven's demonic art, but also the scenery we create to the others. What scenery are you talking about? I'll show it to you now. I drew a mansion on the ground. I encountered the children's dolls in a remote mansion. And talked about everything I'd experienced so far. The scenery I'd seen. The first scene. Little dolls in a burning mansion. The second scene. Petra who lived at the edge of a village. The third scene. A peony blooming in the middle of winter. The fourth scene. The moon whose heart was stolen by a mirror. The fifth scene. Teardrops falling onto a rooftop. Sometimes I drew pictures on the ground. Sometimes I drew them with my aura. I talked about the stories I'd experienced with my body, and the scenes I'd seen with my eyes. These were just stories. Since they didn't yet have a form, they couldn't be called the formation method. But these were scenes that would someday become the foundation of the formation method. These are the scenes I have. 5. There might be more in the future, and it'll probably increase. But for now, there are 5. I see. A burqa murmured. Daddy, you've experienced a lot. You've proudly lived a more intense life than anyone else. I'm certain now that Daddy is even more diligent than I am. The density of your time is incredible. That's because I travel around a lot. Will I also be able to travel to places like Daddy has? Well. I got up. Perhaps. Because you have already merged your mind and body. Maybe you'll reach the stage of rejuvenating your body. I'm about to leave this era, but it's possible that you will survive until the next era. I'm going to live for a very long time. A burqa let out a laugh. I will spread the story of Daddy to our race. I will make our meetings into a play and have it performed on stage. I will share it to the younger generations. I will make the 5 stories into 5 fire paintings and personally showcase them during the full moon. I swear. Just as Daddy has taken care of our race, we will not forget you. I stretched out my arm. A burqa bent over and held out his arm as well. My tiny human hand grasped the hobgoblin's giant hand and we shook them. A burqa. You're an amazing child. Continue to spread your sherbal to the entire world. A burqa grinned widely, showing off his fangs. Of course. Daddy. Then. I declare stage clear. Stage clear. You have cleared the 33rd floor. Your compensation will be settled after entering the 34th floor. Chain layers in progress, you will be sent directly to the 34th floor. A white light enveloped me. Chapter 179. The Giant's Legacy, 3. The place that the light took me to was also filled with gentle light. It was a place where you could only see white stretching infinitely no matter which direction you looked. In this place, someone had arrived before I did. Oh. The two of us made eye contact. The other smiled in a way that was eerily reminiscent of a cat. Welcome, Death King. It's been exactly 10 days. I must say, there's no one more reliable than someone who keeps their promises so perfectly. The keeper of the tower's gold. The master of the merchant union. The Count. The Count was dressed in traditional Indian attire. Despite her immense wealth, the Count only wore a simple, one-color sari. The resplendent folding fan in the Count's hands was the only thing that stood out. Thank you. How are those elf race kids doing? Don't ask. They became so shameful after I left them for a while. The Count waved her fan. The golden arabesque designs sparkled and shone. Those kids had no concept of money at all, so I focused intensively on teaching them how to manage it. Regardless of whether they are elves or not, can they survive on just eating grass? But those guys quickly fell in love with the taste of money. Now, they judge everything based on whether it can make money or not. I can't believe it. The fate of the elves was truly strange. Before my regression, they reigned as a bloodthirsty fighting race under the rule of the Flame Emperor. Children really do resemble their parents. Doesn't that mean that they're faithfully following the Count's teachings? What kind of person do you think I am? I'm the type of person who treats money as water. It falls as rainwater, then flows into a river before returning to the ocean. In other words, you spend money like water. Agu. That's correct. I suppose I can't pretend in front of the Death King. The Count giggled over her fan. Anyway, when are the others coming? It seems we have been getting along too well these days and they've become indisciplined. Haven't you guys always been close? We became careless. In the past, we were all best friends, so there was a lot of chaos. After the Great Purge, things became a bit strained. But we started to grow close again after you arrived. Of course, there are some who never stopped being close. I see. They had many ups and downs. Although I was certain that I was getting along well with the other hunters, I still didn't know much about their past. The heretic questioner. I'd heard about Bambolina's past not so long ago. By the way, after thinking about the heretic questioner, a thought popped into my mind. I heard that the Crusader is dating someone. Do you know who it is? Why do you ask? I'm a bit curious. The Crusader always wears a helmet. So I was wondering if she wears the helmet while on dates with the person. No way. The Count let out a laugh. I can't speak for others, but the Crusader cares a lot about hair care. Even when she takes off her helmet, her hair is perfect. Really? Of course. It glows like a beach at sunset. The reason she wears the helmet in the first place is because... Pop! Suddenly, we heard a ridiculous sound effect. The Count and I turned our heads at the same time. Sorry. I was working on something in the tower, so I'm a little late. The constellation, the lady who walks through the mirage, appeared with a pillow in her arms. It seemed she had been busy. With a soft phew, the lady wiped sweat from her brow. Let's see here. You cleared the 33rd floor. Have you finished talking? Talking? We're waiting for the others. The lady tilted her head to the side. Why are you waiting? The others are waiting for you. Sorry. This is something that I also can't explain. It's been a really long time since I was in charge of a stage, so I always forget things. Really? My intelligence was really nerfed too much when I fell down to a constellation. It's almost like the main body in Zrakwa. What was she talking about? When she saw our blank gazes, the lady stopped speaking and waved her fingers instead. The lady who walks through the mirage will now announce the person who was eliminated on the 33rd floor stage. I turned to look at the Count, and the Count also turned to me. Eliminated? Weren't we all moving to the next stage with no one being kicked out? The lady opened her mouth. If you completely give up your right for supremacy, or fall to the point where you are unable to claim it again, you will be eliminated. Simple, right? That's what happened to the snails on the 32nd floor. And on the 33rd floor. The tower's voice sounded again. The Count was eliminated on the 33rd floor. My eyes widened, and the Count's eyes followed suit. The tower made another announcement as if to drive the nail in further. Another reminder to everyone. The Count was eliminated on the 33rd floor. Wait a minute. That's not possible. The Count finally spoke up. She was so flustered that her ears perked up like a cat. Why is it saying that I was eliminated? The elves gave up their right of supremacy. You are automatically eliminated because you are in charge of the elf race. I know you might be mad at me, but I also have to follow the rules, sorry. It doesn't make sense. The elves were quiet throughout the entire stage. They didn't actively participate in the war, so it didn't consume much of their power. How could I be eliminated? Well, what happened was... This is annoying. See for yourself. Boing. With another strange sound effect, a video began playing in the air in front of us. Did constellations decided on their own sound effects? If that was the case, then this one deserved to be judged. In the video, several elves were gathered together. Each of them had long, pointed ears. The goblins have become monsters. I heard the rumors, but I didn't think it was true. They're even more terrifying than I imagined. The elders of the elf race wiggled their ears as they whispered to each other. I thought the general was lying because he didn't want to take responsibility, but that wasn't the case. Oh my God. Did you plant spies in the expeditionary army? That's traitorous. Anyone who didn't plant spies is a fool. What if the general who went out in the army was to suddenly turn his sword towards us? I know all of you planted your own spies. No need to pretend. That's right. Yes, that's right. You can't always believe your own race. We are all experienced and we know this. Such selfishness. We didn't care about the commanders we chose, and only cared about our spies. It's no wonder the holy expedition failed. What was this? This was far from the discussion among elders that I was expecting. What can we do? The money we spent to organize the Allied army was wasted. We intended to make up for the potential losses by taking the snails as slaves. Now isn't the time to discuss the original plan. The problem is that the goblin race has become the hegemon. We spent hundreds of years developing the plan to take control of the mermaids, but now people have come to mess with it. It's time for us to reconsider our grand strategy. I looked at the Count in bewilderment. Merchant Union Master. No way. I thought that a multi-race alliance like that one couldn't have occurred without reason. Perhaps. The Count seemed equally as surprised. I only taught those kids how to use money a little bit. I'm sure it's not just money. Did you also teach those kids to become a hidden power? I didn't mean to. I told you, didn't I? Those kids grew up in a weird way. No, more than that, isn't this a racial secret? It should be confidential. Why are you showing it to the Death King? The Count turned to the lady. Unbelievable. While I was raising my goblins with a pure heart, the Merchant Union Master had been aiming for an economic victory behind the scenes. If I hadn't seen this video, I might not have found out about this till after I cleared the 40th floor. Wow. Now that I think about it, I also moved according to the Count's advice, didn't I? At that time, when the goblins were about to clash with the Allied forces, it was the Count that made the suggestion to me. So, following her advice, I entered Aberka's dream and told him to negotiate in a way that benefits every race. In other words, the Count was trying to suck honey all on her own. When and how did they start taking control of the mermaids? They're like ghosts. Come on. They didn't take control, they were only helping them. A mutually supportive relationship. It's difficult for the mermaids, who live in the water, to make trade ships. The elves, on the other hand, live in the forest and are experts at handling trees. Oh my God. So the ships they carry the salt on were made for them by the elves? To be precise, they were loaned to them. The Count groaned. All the ships operated by the mermaids are owned by the elves. They simply pay a shipping tax for every trip. In addition, all ships owned by elves can only be anchored at ports run by the elves. Why could they do that? They get 30% off their shipping tax when they anchor at an elf port. They also get a free repair service. Wow. And while the mermaids can swim in the water, they cannot supply salt to villages and cities that aren't near water. The elves are the ones in charge of this. If they take an elf ship and use an elf port, of course, they will use an elf wagon. As long as the mermaids work hard to make the salt and bring it to the port, the elves will play the role of distributors, is that right? The harder the mermaids work, the more free money the elves make? Something like that. My mouth fell open. What was this? It was such a vicious tactic. You really, are the merchant union master. If you want to make a lot of money, it's necessary to dominate a platform. The Count was furious. I just taught those kids the obvious truth. More importantly, I don't want to receive that kind of look from you who raised the goblins to be a bunch of muscle-headed pigs. No. I raised those kids to be strong enough that no one would bully them. With pure hearts. That purity was frozen to death and became a twisted mummy. I just taught my kids the truth of the world so that they wouldn't have to futilely work hard and suffer. A child needs to suffer a bit in order to grow properly. What the hell are you talking about? If you're suffering, that means you're not living a good life. It's because of parents like the merchant union master that kids these days are so narrow-minded. It's because of parents like the Death King that kids these days are so sick in the head. You're so salty. You're really worthy of your name. What's wrong with Kim Gongja? It's truly filled with the disposition of a classical scholar. You're crazy. The lady observed our quarrel. You guys are interesting. You make me think about my mom too. Amid our debate on the philosophy of child education, the holographic video continued to play. We should point the blade of the Allied army towards the goblins. No. Cost-wise, it's not worth it. The snails had a holy land. What do the goblins have? What's the point of taking over a village full of mud? I heard the mud is really good for your skin. I'm sure you'd like that, dear. But I'm not interested. We should surrender. The elf elders blinked. The Count and I closed our mouths. Let's surrender. We can win in a fight, and we have nothing to win if we fight. There's nothing to gain even if we pour all of our money into it. No matter what we do, it wouldn't be good for business. That's why we should fold early. Are you crazy? Do you want us to stop doing business? I meant that we should spread out a new mat. The elf elder explained. We'll offer to become a vassal race of the goblins. And in return, we'll receive their protection. Vassal? Protection? We will give authority of all the ports and ships we own to the goblin race. The entire continent is intimidated by the goblins. So if we sail or trade with the flag of the goblins, we will be much safer than we are now. Since we will be the first to become their vassal, they will certainly trust us even more. Then we'd be able to use the name and force of the goblin race almost for free. Like a donkey in a lion's skin. The elders were troubled. Do we really have to give up so much? The cheaper you are in the beginning, the more expensive tills will be later. It would hurt our pride. It'll be fine as long as we can recover what was damaged. Aren't we just doing it to make money anyway? That's true. We'll pay a tribute to the goblin race every year. They'd probably be happy if we said we'd give them 10% of our yearly profits. Minus 10%? Isn't that too much? In fact, we only need to give them 1% and say it's 10%. It'll be fine. There isn't anyone in our race who doesn't know how to maintain double ledgers. That's also true. I'd never heard of the elves using double ledgers in my life, but it seemed to be common sense to them now. An elder briefly muttered. Right. Let's surrender. It's just a matter of becoming a vassal race. What do the goblins like? Dirt? Would they like it if we brought dirt from our place? We need to think of a plausible reason for our surrender. From what the spies told us, they're not that smart. How about we say that we fell in love with their muscles and that we'd like to live with them to appreciate them even more? It would probably work if we told them that we have money, but we don't have muscles. Really? Are they really that ignorant? It's amazing that such an ignorant race even managed to last this long. Nevertheless, it is a good thing. The more ignorant they are, the easier it will be for us to get into their good graces. We should be thankful. Thank you. Great cat. Thank you. Like today, let us continue to sponge off of pushovers under the care of our guardian deity. Like today, let us make free money tomorrow by making others do the hard work. Let all the honey be eaten by us, in the name of ship tax, land tax, logistics tax, distribution tax, warehouse tax. Thank you. The elders then drew something in the air. This seemed to be a prayer unique to the elves. The way they all bowed their heads was truly sacred. I was silent. The count also had no choice but to remain silent. Ing. So they surrendered. The lady smiled. They have no interest in supremacy. They seem to be happy as long as they can make money. Sincerely. They said that they would be a parasite on the goblin race and suck honey forever. So you were eliminated because they voluntarily gave up their right to hegemony. Any questions? I have a complaint. Sorry. I don't accept complaints. The count has failed to clear the stage. The count has been eliminated from the stage. This is unreasonable. The count's figure began to fade. She was probably being sent to the first floor. It doesn't make sense. I only taught them how to secretly suck honey in life. Why would they give up their right to hegemony? Power. Power is the final destination of wealth, so why? Elves are usually not that greedy. After learning the joy of making money, why would they need more? As you said, they just want to suck honey. Death King. The count reached out to me. Help me. Complain with me. I can't accept that I'm being eliminated like this. I'm sorry, Merchant Union Master. But honestly, I think this is your own doing. I'm not upset about you calling me a scholar or anything, I'm just saying. No. The count let out a scream as she was wrapped in light. When the light faded, the only thing that remained was her echo. Pot. And in the next moment, the Sword Saint, Black Dragon Master, Venomous Snake, and Crusader were summoned. The Black Dragon Master looked around. We were made to wait this time too. Death King, did something happen? I shook my head. Nothing happened. Let's move on to the next stage. I will never forget your eye-opening elimination, Count. Make a lot of money. Chapter 180. Our children have changed. 1. Naturally, everyone wouldn't just accept my words and move on because I said nothing happened. They were all curious about how the count was eliminated. So I gave them a rough explanation of everything I saw and heard. That person is really beyond pitiful. How unfortunate. The Black Dragon Master's expression was strange. Her expression was usually blank, so whenever her facial muscles moved, it was easy to read her emotions. For example, just by making a slightly disbelieving expression, she had the ability to make the actions of others appear extremely ridiculous. It was amazing. It's her fault for choosing the elf race in the first place. They aren't that greedy, so it's easy for them to be satisfied. Since she gave those children a taste for money, there's no way they would care about anything else. Count. The Crusader looked up into the air with pity. It was as if she could see the Count's figure smiling and waving above us. We had a moment of silence for the absurd being known as the Count. By the way, what about the Count's points? Will they be distributed to us? Right. But I don't think it'll be as plentiful as the heretic questioners. The lady yawned. The Count used up her points whenever she got them, so the lady who walks through the mirage will now distribute the points. You received 2 race points. You currently have 8,802 race points. There weren't many points for me to distribute. Crazy. We were all shocked by the penny pincher Count seal. It wasn't even, so I'm left with 1 point. I'll give this to you, Swordy. Since Swordy is number 1. You have to take care of me too, don't you? Thanks in advance. That's what you should take it as. Thanks. It was nothing. In the end, what the Count left us with by being eliminated was an understanding of the importance of 1 race point, and a group of frugal elves who had become obsessed with making money. What was going on? Why did it feel like my colleagues were making things more troublesome whenever they were eliminated? By the time we cleared the 40th floor, I'm afraid we'd have to change the name of our tower from Dongchen City to Deongsan City. Now then, I'll send you to the 34th floor. Is there anyone that wants to buy items before you enter? Hurry up and pick. I took a look at the civilization store. There was an item there I was looking for. Race evolution. Rank, undetermined. Effect, your race can evolve a total of 2 times. The cost of the second evolution is much more than the first. Price, 30,000 race points. Unlock conditions, your race must have acquired at least 6 traits. Plus. I clicked my tongue. It was too expensive. It'll be hard to get the final evolution. I just wanted to see our kids grow up and conquer the entire world. Unfortunately, it seemed like I would have to postpone my wish for now. I can't even believe those crazy guys can grow even further. Do you know what a hobgoblin becomes if it evolves 1 more time? Well, a dwarf? Or a troll? So this gentleman also doesn't know. I laughed in my head. Wait and see. When those kids grow up you'll understand why I picked the goblin race. At that time, even I won't be able to recognize the goblin race. Zombie. Don't laugh like that. You look terrible when you do that evil laugh. Those words were too harsh. The others chose the items they wanted. Seeing that everyone was finished with their preparations, the lady nodded her head. All the items you bought have been reflected in history. I hope you understand that refunds are not possible. Then if I were to progress time until the next stage. This time, 300 years have passed. 300 years. More than 1,000 years had passed since the primeval forest had burned down. I recalled that it was around this time that the Flame Emperor had begun to earnestly unify the world. The elves who worshipped the Flame Emperor as the fire god's incarnation began to burn the continent. I think it should be fine now since the elves were more interested in making money than burning people. Then I'll open the 34th floor. You didn't get any quests last time, but you will this time. However, it's not a joint quest that everyone can complete together. It's a solo quest. I will give a quest to each race. The lady put down her pillow and smiled. Your children's childhoods are slowly coming to an end. If they were people, would this be around the age of puberty? It's time for the problems to arise. And it's time for them to have some growth pains. Pack. The lady clapped her hands together. Good luck, everyone. The scary kids are beginning to run around, so be careful. Good luck. It was only after the white light enveloped us and I heard the voice of the tower that I understood the meaning of those words. The goblin race has gained the new trait noblesse oblige. As history developed, the goblins had probably experienced several changes. While waiting for the 34th floor to begin, I heard the voice again. The characteristics of the goblin race's bad friend doctrine have begun to change. The goblin race has gained the new trait demonic cult. What? Demonic cult? Before I could even begin to reflect on the meaning of the voice's words, I was sent to the next era. As soon as I was transferred, I was immediately able to notice a difference from the previous stages. I was standing in the center of a secluded street. Black Dragon Master? Sword Saint? Hello. Is anyone there? And my companions were nowhere to be seen. The lady truly meant it when she said that we would be separated and made to complete our own quests. It seemed that we had been scattered to cities that belonged to our races. Ugher. Let's have a drink in the evening after training. As expected, I was placed in a city belonging to the goblins. Watermelon is in season. When you grind watermelon and mix it with alcohol, it's really delicious. Doesn't it damage your muscles after a while if you drink alcohol? Sometimes you need to drink alcohol in order to make your muscles more flexible. Goblins walked along the street in groups of 2s and 3s. The goblins had become the hegemon in the last stage. But that fact couldn't be seen from this city. There were neither colorful buildings or dazzling streets. Should I say that it looked like a nest that was neatly built by termites? Bumpy white buildings flowed in a row. There's a fire painting play tonight. All the popular actors will be there. It's called the biggest hit in 2 years. The seats are sold out. If we don't hurry, we won't even have the space to stand. Occasionally, there would be unusually large circular buildings in the city. They were theaters. In front of the theaters, ticket clerks sold standing tickets with bright smiles, and surprisingly the ticket clerks were all elves. Come, come. Almost sold out. Almost sold out. What was even more surprising was the title of the play. A special experience tonight. Bring your lover. Bring your colleagues. To experience Raviel and Kekrker, performed by a luxury theater company with 300 years of experience. Poo hop. I choked. The love story of the century. The heavenly romance. Why did the most beautiful princess in the empire abandon the crown prince to choose Kekrker, who had little to show? What words did Kekrker use to seduce the lovely princess? It contains the lesson that, in the end, the most important things in life are words. Raviel and Kekrker. Perhaps you too could learn the wonders of your tongue. No, these bastards? I ran to the front of the theater. At a 3-way intersection in front of the theater were posters painted in ink. Portraits of the actors that played Raviel and me. Naturally, the actors were both hobgoblins. The hobgoblins stood in front of the posters and chatted amongst themselves. So beautiful. You go. Honestly, haven't we already seen Raviel and Kakerker many times since we were young? Now I could even recite the lines with my eyes closed. You don't know anything. Nowadays, it's popular to reinterpret classic masterpieces. The last time I saw a play, it was a remake of Raviel and the Lady of the Golden Silk. That's ridiculous. Shouldn't it be The Silver Lily and the Lady of the Golden Silk instead of Raviel and Kakerker? The title is a scam. Don't look down on it. It's gained a lot of popularity in some areas. Right. I heard that some people got obsessed with the play and poured their fortunes into it. I heard that the elf playwright got a lot of money. It wasn't just that. A golden opportunity. The best fire play, Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, is coming to you tonight. Witness the enchanting flames demonstrated by the Grandmaster ranked 16th in the Fire River Council. Especially for the role of Sword Emperor. The only large-scale fire play. The number of extras alone reaches 66. Estelle, from Saintess to Witch. The only place where you can witness this play is at the Swamp Theater in Guru. Great value for your money. If you buy a ticket now, you'll get one free watermelon beer. The elves promoted the various plays in loud voices. There were about 3 or 4 theaters concentrated in this 3-way intersection alone. They were all competing on one boulevard, so it was natural for their acts of solicitation to intensify. The elf ticket clerks also fought amongst themselves, and they even grabbed each other's ears. Hey! Watermelon beer? You can't seduce them with food. You should compete fair and square using the quality of your play. There's nothing wrong with doing business. You should also develop your own products. Only losers talk so much. Ugher? Are they fighting now? There should be a play where the ticket clerks fight to see who wins. I'll be the referee, so good luck. It was a shocking and terrifying scene. Those crazy little. Of course, it was as Aberka said. I will make your stories into fire paintings and pass them from generation to generation. But I'd imagined it as grandparents telling their grandchildren. I never thought it would be commercialized. Is this the influence of the elves? They did say that the elves were obsessed with money. Beihurayong let out a bitter laugh. Hey, that one looks interesting. Let's go watch it. In the theater he pointed to, Raviel and Kakerker, was in full swing. Half distracted, I followed behind Beihurayong. The circular theater resembled a huge cave. It was dark everywhere, but the actors freely controlled their aura while reciting lines. Should I say that it was more like a musical than a play? Ah, Miss Raviel. I now understand what my heart is telling me. Sylvia. Like a clam, I feel a weakness in my heart. A disease. A sparkling ailment. Just like my destiny, this ailment hardens and becomes a pearl. Miss Raviel. I cannot resist this beautiful disease. A hobgoblin performed on stage. It was a great performance. Seeing as they were called Sylvia, the hobgoblin must be playing the young lady. Sylvia, no. Stop it. If you say more. The person I love is not the son of the Empire. It's not my butler either. Miss Raviel. Your Excellency the Duke. The one I long for is you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you out of your mind, young lady Sylvia? The kids were insane. No. I'm extremely sober. Tomorrow, I will give my farewells to the Crown Prince. He may be angry, but his anger will not consume my love. No. I'd prefer if he tried to consume it. I am willing to burn. Young lady. My mind went blank as I stared at the play unfolding before me. The plot went like this. Raviel could not accept the heart of the Lady of Golden Silk. The Crown Prince and the Lady of Golden Silk break up, and the Crown Prince, who was unable to contain his regret after the breakup, attempts to assassinate her. Finally, as the climax, the butler Kekrikar tries to stop the assassination and is killed instead. I can't die, you bastards! I shouted without realizing it. Like the hobgoblin had said before, the title, Raviel and Kekrikar, was a scam. However, my voice couldn't be heard by the goblins around me. Instead, they chattered on as if they were moved after the fire play ended. The fire today was wonderful. This is already my 4th time watching it and I still can't get enough of it. All the actors used their aura very well. Gore. Frankly, I was quite moved. I want to be on stage someday too. No. Something wasn't right. I knelt down at the 3-way intersection in front of the theater. Why have our kids become so weird? Beihurayong looked at me with a strange expression. Your kids were weird from the very beginning. Zombie. Chapter 181. Our children have changed, too. What are you talking about? My kids are pure, cute, hardworking, sincere. After all, they were born from all the good things in the world. What does a blind guy like you know about us? Right. You're boasting so proudly. You must have been a goblin in one of your past lives. Beihurayong clicked his tongue. At that moment, a voice sounded in my head. The 34th floor's quest has been given. Did the tower judge that I had a rough idea of the stage so it gave out the quest? Words appeared in front of my eyes. Plus. The Warring Theaters period, the crisis of classics. Plus. The name of the quest was strange. Still kneeling in frustration, I looked at the quest window. Plus. The Warring Plays period, the crisis of classics. Difficulty, B+. Objective, you have succeeded in bestowing mythology to the goblin race. The goblin people were born listening to your actions, seeing your deeds, and learning your beliefs. But the excitement was short-lived. Having heard the same stories over and over for hundreds of years, the new generation of the goblin race have grown tired of the mundane classics. For some time now, recreations of the classics have been gaining popularity in the goblin race. This trend has passed the stage of sensational popularity and has developed into a violent gale which threatens to displace the original myths. Ugher. I like the evil Kekrikar better than the good Kekrikar. It is tradition that the Lady of Golden Silk and the Lady of the Silver Lily be connected. The Constellation Killer and the Sword Emperor is good too. You don't know what you're talking about. It's only a classic when the Sword Emperor and the Heavenly Demon are together. This is serious. The goblin race has begun to quarrel amongst themselves over which myth is real. If this is allowed to continue, the goblin race might lose their original myths. If the original myths disappear, the goblin race will be unable to use their aura training method. Noble White Lion. Create a play for the goblin race that will be performed in the theaters and receive applause as the true story. You are the one who decides the true myths and the true history. Unify the myths and establish the aura training method. However, if you fail to deliver, your race will lose the demonic cult trait. I read the quest window several times. So to put it simply, my stories have become so twisted that they are no longer sure what is real or fake. If I leave it as is, the aura training method that I worked so hard to plan out will disappear. I guess so. I stroked my chin. How should I go about this? Several thoughts flitted across my mind for a moment. But my first thought was, do I really need to fix this? I thought that it might be fine to just leave it as is. I would get tired of hearing the same thing every day too. The kids are only trying this and that because they're hungry for new plays. There's no need for me to spray cold water on them. Huh? Then what about the aura training method that you so ambitiously prepared? That was just my greed. It started because Aberka agreed that it would be interesting. If the kids of this era don't want to do it because they don't think it would be fun, then it's up to them. I don't want to interfere with their fun too much. Ho! Beihurayong clapped his hands. For the first time, you actually look like a real parent. I've always been a real parent. That's a load of bullsh*t. If there was a competition in the world for the most childish parent, you would win a landslide victory. Zombie. Oh. That place sounds interesting. I pointed to the theater across the street. There were many theaters in this city. If the circular theaters on the three-way intersection were the large companies, then the one I was pointing to was a small theater company that had barely managed to carve out a space for itself in an alley. Nevertheless, the poster for the play was quite pretty, probably because they had to hone their advertising abilities. The Epic of Kekerker. Watch the fire play of Kekerker, the rampant fire sword. The elf ticket clerk shouted. Demon King Estelle, the Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, and Raviel and Kekerker, too, all of these stories start here and end here. The two people who are always together on a mythical journey. The story of him and him. The picture of a tattooed hobgoblin stood out on the poster, although he seemed to be a bit soft for some reason. And behind him was another hobgoblin with a lean, muscular body. The two were staring straight ahead with their backs to each other. From the looks of it, that one is about us. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a story about the two of us. Beihurayong also looked interested. Filled with anticipation, we entered the small theater. A few logs that had been scraped clean were placed on the ground, and the guests sat on them in their designated spots. All of the seats were full. Even the standing area was filled to the brim.
Oh.
After seeing the proper facilities, our expectations rose even more. It's small but clean. It feels like an elite minority. But among the things you told Aberka, were there any stories about you and me? Huh? Apart from Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, there shouldn't be any. Well, I guess this is a secondary creation. Looks like it's starting. Watch quietly, you don't need to. Even if we talk amongst ourselves, no one else can hear us, so it's pretty sweet. Don't they sell popcorn at these theaters? Watermelon beer? Fried watermelon skin? What's this? Why do these guys like watermelon so much? We chatted while watching The Rampant Fire Sword. For a moment, my heart pounded because of my high expectations. But as the play progressed, the faces of Beihurayong and I quickly became sour in real time. What is this? What the fuck? The two of us ran out of the play before it was even halfway through. Did those bastards lose their minds? Crazy. That wasn't me on the poster but the Flame Emperor. Crazy. Why is there a random scene of the Heavenly Demon and the Flame Emperor arguing? Crazy. The word crazy just kept coming out of my mouth. 3 crazies. That was a strikeout. Now that I think about it, I think we need to distinguish the real myths. The kids' fun? Of course it's important. However, not the Flame Emperor. Anyone but the Flame Emperor. Crazy. They really crossed the line. You're right. You need to fix it. With one mind, Beihurayung and I vowed to complete the quest. Let's see how we can solve this situation first. I wandered around the city until nightfall. As a result, I found that there were unexpectedly some serious problems in the current era. It was also related to the new trait the goblin race had acquired. Plus. Demonic cult. Category: religion, military, politics. Origin: bad friend doctrine. Description: finally, the White Lion faith has begun to distinguish itself as a religion through the Guru doctrine and the bad friend doctrine. Gork, the first prophet, recognized the White Lion as a close friend and father of the goblin race. And the goblin race learned the myths of the White Lion from the second prophet, Aburka. Nevertheless, the demonic cult is currently experiencing an unprecedented identity crisis. There are all kinds of denominations and opinions over the proper interpretations of the White Lion's myths. The various denominations accuse each other of heresy and claim that they are the true inheritors of the White Lion's will. The goblins, who believe in different myths, have different images. The appearance and efficacy of their aura varies depending on what image it is based on. Solve the problem of the doctrinal interpretations. However, this trait can change depending on how history progresses. Caution. There are 16 denominations in dispute about the doctrines. If conflict intensifies, it may lead to religious strife and perhaps even racial division. Plus. Ego. I had a rough understanding of how the history of the past 300 years went. This problem probably began after Aburka's death. If that child was still alive, he would probably have beaten up all the opposition and suppressed them with force. Indeed. The kids who were forced to sit quietly without being able to make a sound are now raising their voices. That seems to be the case. Aburka was strong. Too strong. When such absolute powerhouse disappeared, the disagreements that appeared among the goblin race could not be dealt with as simply as before. Conflict was natural. Just like everyone experiencing puberty, the goblin race was now experiencing the pains of growing up. Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is, if I can't have it, I'd rather destroy everything. Take a look at Estelle's unique charm. This is a classic fire play. It's much better than the other pseudo plays. Who are you calling pseudo? You heretic. The Flame Emperor was actually a good person. The story of a man who fell prey to Kekricker's viciousness. Although that pain was developing in a strange direction. From the beginning, art and religion had been inseparable in the goblin race. The ones who demonstrated the fire paintings were priests and the theaters where plays were held were temples. Which play you went to watch showed what denomination you believed in. Depending on the image they have, their aura could change drastically. Art. Religion. Military. These important fields were grouped together. But I could never, ever, allow the worship of the Flame Emperor. It was something that I was determined to get rid of. There should be laws for this. I was in a remote part of the city. In a place where the poor goblins lived together in pits, a cry rang out. When I turned my head to look, there was an argument occurring in front of a shabby theater. I definitely won first place in the evaluation. My acting skills were by far the best. The main character of the argument was an elf. In front of the small elf, who was shouting, stood a large hobgoblin with his arms folded. So why did someone else get the role instead of me? Was it a bribe? Personal connections? You should go on stage because of your own skill, not something like this. We don't take bribes. You go. And no one can use personal connections either. Although we're poor, we're still a theater company with 130 years of tradition. Don't look down on us. Then why didn't I even get selected for the main role or even a supporting role? Is it because I'm an elf? Don't be ridiculous. That's racial discrimination. I will make a formal complaint to the Fire River Council. It's not that you weren't selected because you are an elf. We pursue equality under Kakarkar's advice. However, the Hobgoblin Company owner spoke in a solemn voice. You are too weak. What? Look at your body. The owner's eyes scanned the elf's body. Your bank is hunched. Your shoulders are thin. Your muscles are non-existent. Your limbs are as thin as spider legs and look as though they will crack when touched. And your thighs, are those even thighs? I'm not even sure how you can still support your body on those legs. The hobgoblin shook his head. No matter how good your acting skills are, what's the point? These days, the audience's focus is on a lot of muscles. Even snot-nosed kids wouldn't admire a body like yours. You're not qualified. An actor only needs to be good at acting. The elf was furious. However, he covered himself with both arms as though he was self-conscious. The theater owner shook his head before revealing his thick muscles. No. Actors are priests who share Kakarkar's teachings to the public, warriors who take the lead in the event of a war, and fighters who duel when the council is convened. Did these guys still decide on the council's agenda by dueling? They were such cute idiots. That's why the audiences clap their hands so happily at the actors. They acknowledge the fantasies as truth. Who would be enchanted by a warrior who only knew how to talk on stage? Your muscles are weak. Increase your chest muscles by 4 times first. Then I'll listen to what you have to say. According to mythology, Kakarkar had internal muscles. My muscles are internal too. I'm stronger than I look. Ugher. The theater owner smirked. Then be Kakarkar instead of an actor. Transform into a lion and help our race. At the very least, our theater company doesn't believe in internal muscles. Wait a minute. Theater owner, sir. Just once. In the end, the elf knelt down and grabbed the edge of the hobgoblin's clothes. Please judge me one more time. I am confident that I can act much better than last time. After seeing my acting, the other muscleheads won't even catch your eyes. I am an acting genius. If you pick me as the main character, no, if you give me the role as one of the 4 demon lords in Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, there will be a revolution in the Guru theater world. An actor should never kneel. The theater owner dismissed him. Exercise. Build up your muscles. That's all I have to say to you. Sir. Elves are different from you goblins. It's impossible for us to have big muscles. You ignorant pigs. Are there muscles in your brain? I have nothing more to say to you. The hobgoblin easily shook the elf off, and with a scream, the elf rolled over. Ago, I'm dead. Ago. This mold is racist. It's sad that I was born an elf. If I was born a goblin, I would have already debuted on the stage by now. Why was I born with long ears? Why am I being treated like this? Do you think Kakarkar would accept what you're doing? How pathetic, go make some money instead. I like acting more than making money. The theater owner closed his door with a click. The aspiring elf actor cried out. Great cat. Kakarkar. Please give me the talent of an actor. It's fine as long as you let me go on stage one time. You can have my soul. No, even the devil is fine. Take my soul. Take my soul so that I may debut. Please. I stroked my chin. I think I have a good idea. Huh? What is it? Let's create a top star actor. I'll show the true play to the goblins who had started believing false stories. Chapter 182. Our children have changed. 3. Bad guys. Ignorant fools who only know about muscles. The aspiring elf actor stayed on the ground for a while before finally returning home. On the way, he grumbled and complained about how unfair his life was. Where did you run off to this time? He was abused at home as well. You didn't go to a theater again, did you? This child has grown so much and he still hasn't come to his senses. Son. Those fire plays were all made to brainwash goblins. In the end, it's a way for them to worship Kekerker. Why are you so hellbent on it? Unlike the goblins, the elves lived in large, luxurious mansions. The aspiring elf actor's family also seemed to be very wealthy. For the elves, who were born merchants and lived as merchants, the aspiring elf actor might as well have been a different race. It's not. The aspiring elf actor muttered under his breath as he ate dinner. The fire plays don't worship Kekerker. Instead, the fire players are about things Kekerker worships. What is he talking about? I don't know. He was speaking so softly that I didn't hear a word he said. You're an adult now. I've calculated everything we've given you so far and compiled them into a ledger. I'll allow you to pay us back without interest, so make sure to do it quickly. If you don't pay us back, you can get out of the house. Why does our family only care about money? The aspiring elf actor was furious. No, why is our race only focused on making money? Because making money is fun. I don't think it's fun. What's so fun about taking advantage of the goblins? Taking advantage of pushovers has always been the most enjoyable pastime. In any case, will you pay us back for our support or not? This race is crazy. The aspiring elf actor stood up. It is a tradition and obligation to pay back your parents all the money they spent on you until adulthood. I can't believe even something like that is taken for granted. It's natural, after all that money was spent on you. You wrote down all the money you spent on me from the day I was born. From the cost of a midwife to take care of me, to everything I ever ate or wore. Are you sick? Does our race have some kind of special disease that kills you if you don't keep a ledger? I'm done. I'm sick and tired of staying in this house. I'll just run away from home. The aspiring elf actor then walked out of the house. The moment he tried to step out of the gate, his family called out to him. Son. Sonia. What? Even if you leave, you have to take your debt documents with you. Here. A family member dragged a cart over to him. There was a pile of scrolls on the cart. They were all debt documents. If you run away, you won't be a member of the family anymore, so we'll have to calculate interest into the prices. Don't worry. We'll only give you the cheapest interest rates. If you get any top-level job and work for about 12 years, you'll be able to pay us back. Work hard to make money. Fuck, this is bullsh**t. From now on, I'll increase the interest rate by 1% every time you swear. I also added the price for the cart. For some reason, I had a feeling that you would be running away from home today, so I prepared it in advance. You should be grateful since I chose a sturdy and cheap one. What are you doing, Sonia? Hurry up and leave the house. With a tearful expression, the aspiring elf actor pulled the cart away. Rattle, rattle. The wheels rolled noisily. Beihurayong and I were the only audience to the sad scene of the young elf. There aren't any normal races in this world, are there? You're right. I always knew that your tower was full of psychos, but now, I'm starting to get a little worried. The elf didn't have any money, so he couldn't even stay in a shabby inn. He could only squat beside the theater and use the cart to block the cold air as he slept. Sniff. A mournful cry echoed across the moonlit street. Purchased dream appearance. 100 points have been deducted. You currently have 8,702 race points. And that was my cue to appear. Sonia. I entered the aspiring elf actor's dream in order to talk to him. Unlike Gork and Aberka, the scenery of the elf's dream was, how should I say it? Pretty vulgar. It was a luxurious party. And hobgoblin servants, all with large muscles, were serving the aspiring elf actor. We're sorry, great actor Sonia. We were too blind to see who the true genius actor was. Ignorant fools who only have muscles, acting is all about spirit. Hurry up and serve the drinks. Ugher. It's an honor to fill the cup of great actor Sonia. It was incredible. Who would have thought that the Count would have corrupted the elves to this extent? Instead of being fairies, they'd become strange spirits. Sonia. Sonia. Come to your senses. Huh? Why is there an ugly human here? I'm the one who guides the goblin race. You all call me Kakerker. Since the elves joined under the flag of the goblins, you all became part of my domain.
Ha!
Weren't you the one who cried out today that it didn't matter if it was Kakerker, the great cat, or the devil, as long as they helped you debut? Rejoice. After hearing your miserable cry, I came to you. What kind of bullsh***? This was the point where I strengthened our relationship with my fists. I'm sorry that I didn't recognize you. Great Kakerker. I forgive you. Gork suspected that I was the devil at first. Eventually, he realized my sincerity. In this harsh world, you shouldn't be so quick to doubt someone. Yes. Thank you for your forgiveness. Great Kakerker. From now on, refer to me as the kind and merciful Kakerker. Huh? Sonia looked up at me from a kneeling position. His bruised eyes seemed to be saying, what the hell was this guy talking about? I smiled and cracked my knuckles. What's wrong? Do you have any complaints? Not at all kind and merciful Kakerker. Now you're ready to talk. I sat on the chair covered in silk cushions and took a sip of watermelon beer. What was this? It tasted like crushed cucumbers with a slightly sweet aftertaste. Why were my kids so obsessed over this lackluster drink? Sonia. There's no need to be afraid of me. I just want to grant your wish. Yes. Right. You want to be an actor, don't you? I'll make you an actor. Really? Yes. Really. Kakerker would never lie. But before I lend you my strength, I have to give you a brief test. Sonia blinked. A test. Recently, there have been many false stories that have deceived the children. It breaks Kakerker's heart. The test I give you will determine if you are worthy of being my third apostle. Tell me. I spoke in a serious voice. What do you think of the Flame Emperor? Sonia tilted his head to the side. He was a bastard, wasn't he? At least according to the classic plays. Kakerker encountered a terrible man one day while living his life normally, and he was called the Flame Emperor. But these days, there have been many people who have been saying that the Flame Emperor is actually good. The so-called, he was actually a good guy, trope, but I don't agree. There are many bastards in the world. And even if they might try to hide it, they can't change that fact. Sonia. Tuck. I put my hand on the aspiring actor's shoulder. You really have a promising future. Huh? I gave him a broad smile. It is true that you can recognize a tree from the seedling. Ooh-ha. You will not just be a large tree, you have the talent to become the world tree.
Ah.
Yes. How could a talented child like you live among those fools who only know how to make money? A lotus blooms in mud, and a black pearl forms in a clam. You are definitely fated to become beautiful. Is that so? You're flattering me so much that I don't know what to say. Sonia scratched his head awkwardly. A warm friendship that transcended race had formed between us. But you didn't say exactly how you'd help me. That's simple. I will borrow your body for a while. There was an item that I'd seen in the civilization store before. Plus. Person possession. Rank A. Effect: possess the person of your choosing. The original owner of the possessed body will become a mental body that stays with you. When the person dies, or when you declare the end of your possession, the mental body will return to its original body. Price: 2,000 race points. However, the item can only be used if the person agrees to the possession. It was an item that was more compatible than animal possession. You want to take over my body? Hook. Really? Hey. I don't know what kind of bad idea you're thinking. But the only one I want is Raviel.
Ah.
That's true. Right. It simply means that my mind will take control of your body. I won't stay too long either. I'll only stay until I make you a top-notch actor. More importantly, if you want me to leave before that, I'll leave. Sonia thought for a moment. Do I have to give you my soul in return? Agu. Where are you going to take your soul and put it? Even after I've possessed you, your mind will still be in your body. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. I'm sure there are many goblins who would want me to possess them. No. No. Sonia spoke in a hurried tone. Please possess me. Kind and merciful Kekerker. I'll do anything to debut. Right. That's the spirit. If a person wants to achieve something, they should be willing to go to the ends of the universe in order to get it. I purchased the item right away. Purchased, person possession. 2,000 points have been deducted. You currently have 6,702 race points. No regrets? No. No complaints? None. Good. Then I'll take that as consent to possess your body. Go ahead. Swoosh. A sound similar to a toilet flushing rang in my ears, and my vision became blurry for a moment. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, the scenery of the city in the early morning came into view. I clenched and unclenched my fists repeatedly. Pretty hands. It felt like my palms were saying, I've never held a sword in my entire life. It's a bit awkward, but I guess it's better than when I possessed the lion. I should get used to it soon. Oh my God. Oh great cat. A startled voice sounded in my head. It was Sonia's voice. You really possessed me. Didn't I tell you before? I'd never lie to you. I'm sorry. To be honest, I was half worried it was some kind of devil scam. I've heard many rumors about strange-looking monsters devouring people. I turned my attention to my aura. Perhaps it was because elves were innately attuned to aura, or perhaps it was because Sonia was actually quite talented. But after fiddling with my aura a few times, I was able to create a flame-like projection on my palm. My God. Seeing how surprised he was, I guess he wasn't that talented. I don't believe it. The fire of the soul was so easily. Who is hanging around here so early in the morning? With a creak, the door to the theater opened, and the theater owner, who'd coldly driven Sonia away the day before, appeared in the doorway. He had a sleepy look on his face as if he'd just woken up. Hugo? Why is it you again? When our eyes met, the theater owner made a tired expression. The screening process has already ended. The roles for the next fire play have already been decided. I have no roles to give you, so please stop messing around. Since you're an elf, you will live and eat well even if you're not allowed to act. Theater owner, sir. I politely fell to my knees. I ran away from home. What? Look at the cart here. This is the debt that my family has charged for feeding and clothing me. I said that I wanted to be an actor even if I died. So they gave me all my debt documents and kicked me out. They even added interest for me to pay them back. I really have nowhere to go back to. I shouted emphatically. I'm even willing to play the role of a henchman. It doesn't matter if it's a minor role. Please just allow me to go on stage. Please look at my acting instead of my muscles. In the name of Kekerker, Gork, and Aberka, I will definitely repay the trust you put in me. Hugo, where did this strange elf come from? The hobgoblin theater owner put his head in his hands. Fine. I'll give you one last chance. However, I can't give you a role just because you ask for it. Prove that you can captivate an audience even with your poor muscles. How can I prove it? Try acting on the spot. The theater owner sat on the ground and folded his arms. This is not an opportunity you would usually be given. So consider it a privilege. Okay. What kind of acting should I do? There is a role that every actor considers to be the gateway to their career. How well they can act this role usually determines how far the actor can go. Although it is an old role, it is very difficult, so it's good at screening the actor's qualities. A very difficult role. The theater owner continued in a solemn tone. I want you to break down the scene in Raviel and Kekerker, where Kekerker reveals his heart as he confesses his love to Raviel. Don't blame me for giving you something too hard. As I said before, you are receiving a great privilege. There are some theater owners that would only allow qualified goblin actors to attempt this role. I tilted my head to the side. Why would that be? You really are nothing but a rookie. The theater owner snorted. The scene where Kekerker confesses to Raviel is difficult even for mature actors to digest. For Kekerker, Raviel is a goddess, and he used every word he could think of to praise her beauty. And it was done sincerely. As if he would die if he didn't love her. With the sorrow that he truly might die without her love. It's not something easy to act. Incompetent actors try to fill this scene with tears and crying. Gah. It's not like that. Kekerker was neither pleading for love nor clinging to love. He just wanted to add to the glory of Raviel by purely expressing his love for the goddess. To completely surrender one's existence to the other. This is not something that can be done by those without experience. Okay. I was confident that I could praise my lover without pause for 360 hours. For me, it was the easiest thing in the world. So you want me to act out the scene where I confess to Raviel? That's right. Of course, I don't expect a stingy elf like you to understand love. Understood. I took a deep breath. Then I imagined Raviel sitting right in front of me. Hair that resembled a silver fox that was about to hibernate, thin, red eyes that seemed to need a bit more sleep. I'm sleepy, she whispers softly, help me wake up, Gongja. Because of you, I can love the world a little more. Raviol. My soul. My eternal red. I didn't know the color red until I met you. I thought that I knew, but I was wrong. Your eyes, those eyes. When I look into your eyes. I opened my mouth. Exactly 2 minutes later, the expression of the theater owner changed. Impossible. He jumped up in shock. This wordplay. This ridiculous confession of love. It's like a centipede desperately trying to act cute. It's perfect. Doesn't this feel like Kekrker himself? That's right. Baby. Daddy's here.